Hi, it's Terry Wilson from the Forest of Bowland National Landscape. I work on the Farming and Protected Landscapes programme, and we're here on Pete Webster's farm, Lawkland Hall Farm, where he's a tenant, and we're down on the wetland area. It's a kind of mossy area, quite deep peat, but it's excellent for breeding waders and overwintering wildfowl, and various ducks nest down here as well. So we've got the whole suite from lapwings and curlew, snipe and redshank. The last couple of years has been one pair of redshank. So I've been working with Pete for a couple of years here with help and support from Hilary Maguire from the RSPB in terms of looking at... Pete was keen to manage this area better for wildlife. So you already had started using native cattle. So he's got some belted Galloways, he's got some Highlands, he's got some Rigget cattle, and these were ideal for bringing down onto this area to help tackle the overgrowth of the rush and the coarse grasses. It's proved to actually be more difficult than just being able to tackle it with grazing. So more recently, a local sympathetic contractor with a machine with very low pressure treads on it has come along and actually done some extra rush cutting just on the very wet areas next to the open ditch. And he's while he's been here, he's created what we call scrapes, which are very shallow, small areas of water that provide muddy edges and open water for invertebrates. All these waders rely on invertebrates, the adults and the chicks. So Pete has quite a big farm, and he farms it commercially. It has to be a business that works. So he has a dairy herd where he milks and does block carving. In fact, he's just in his block carving period now, and some of the land is silage fields, 3-cut silage fields, so it's improved grass layers. However, the curlew do still like to nest in long grass. They're very loyal, a curlew, and they'll nest in the silage fields. So what Pete's done over the recent years is really got to understand the behaviour of these birds and actually can recognise quite early where the nesting territories are for the curlew. And he was keen to be able to accommodate these birds nesting. So he leaves uncut areas around the nests. And in the last couple of years, with extra support through the FIPL programme, we've actually funded some temporary nest protection kits, which are like electric fence kits with solar energisers that the RSPB manage. And the RSPB, with farmers like Pete, once they've worked out where the nesting territories are, come along and put these nest protection kits up. So as well as having the uncut area where there's no machine movements, a bit of protection to the birds in terms of visibility, the nest protection kits help to keep foxes and potentially badgers out. Unfortunately, there's quite a few predators around here. It's part of nature, who will go for the eggs, and then when the young chicks fledge as well, some of the chicks are susceptible to predators as well. So we're here next to a newly created scrape, which is a very shallow area of water. You can see the undulating edges, very shallow sloping edges, so that as well as the adults, the chicks can get in and out and feeding. So once the chicks hatch, they have to be able to feed on insects straight away. So wet, muddy areas that might seem a little bit untidy on farms are actually ideal for the environment. So on here, where the contractor's been cutting the rushes, there's been a little bit of minor impact, but it will recover very quickly because of the low pressure tyres. That's meant that the ground's not been impacted and the surface is not being broken too much. Okay, let's go and meet Pete, and he can talk to us about the other elements of the programme that he's working with us on that we're helping to fund. Hi Pete, thanks for showing us around your farm. So do you want to introduce yourself and the farm?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Pete Webster. I farm here at Lawkland Hall Farm with my wife Rona. We're in partnership together. We're right on the eastern edge of the Forest of Bowland National Landscape. We've been here as tenant farmers for the last 7 years. Rona's family have been here for 97 years. So she's the 4th generation of the family to be here. It's a 172 hectare grassland farm. of which we say is about 135 hectares of grassland on what we call the grazing block, and the remainder of the land is wetland and peatland and triple SI conservation grazing, really. We have the main enterprise, which is dairy. You can see the cows behind us. We're milking about 300 cows at the moment on a specific grass-based system, and we run a spring block calving system. So we start calving at the beginning of February, and we calve for 9 weeks, and then that's it, calving complete for here. And then the cows are out at grass as early as we can. So as soon as they start calving, we turn them out to grass, and we milk them for their 10 months through till the week before Christmas, effectively, where we drive the whole herd off and give the whole herd a break and give ourselves a break for 8 weeks before the process starts again. So that's what we're predominantly, our main enterprise is grass-based dairy. We do have a very small sheep enterprise that's actually dwindling out. Probably this year we'll end up getting rid of the sheep altogether. As well as that, we do have a small number of native breed cattle. We have some Belter Galloways and some Highlanders that largely used for conservation grazing purposes. So they pretty much solely graze on the triple SI and the wetland. The purpose of which is to create habitat for waders. So we're quite fortunate to have 5 species of waders. We've got curlew, lapwing, snipe, redshank, and oystercatcher. And that we use those native bred cattle to create perfect habitat and sward heights for the wading birds, really. So the core, sorry, there's a cow up. Looking the core revenue stream for us is milk sales. We do have a milk contract with a dairy, but as well as that, over the last 18 months, we've got into selling milk directly to the Courtyard Dairy, owned by Andy and Kathy Swinscoe, which is based maybe 300 metres that way at the most. And so they buy milk directly off us and make a specific cheese with it. And that got Rona and myself thinking as to what else we could do to, I don't like the term, but diversify in a way, look at another alternative business and an alternative income stream to complement the farming business. And with Andy and Kathy having such a fantastic site there, and it's turning into something of a focal point, people are, a destination that people come to. We're with the help of Fipple, we are going to be putting in a milk vending machine, which not only vends milks but also vends milkshakes. So that will be pasteurised down on the farm. So we'll put in a pasteuriser and a chiller tank there, partially funded by Fipple, and then we'll transport the pasteurised milk up to the Courtyard Dairy, where it'll be put into the milk and milkshake vending machine, again partially funded by Fipple. So that we're hoping is going to connect where people, the food that people are consuming, the milk, connecting that with the farm. And there'll be various information panels there. There's going to be a video playing on a screen that will be telling the story about the milk, and it's not just white, it's not just a white liquid that people are consuming. It's a fantastically nutritious product, and it's showing the story about how these cows are producing the milk from grazed grass, the conservation side of things that we do an awful lot of on the farm. And then what we're hoping is that people then use the footpaths and the network of footpaths across the farm to come and wander through the farm on the footpaths. And again, with Fipple funding, we're putting in a bird hide that will allow people to come with their binoculars or cameras and enjoy the birds that we have and the wildlife that we have on the farm.
So, when I first met you, you'd been talking to Gemma from the Lune Rivers Trust about a reed bed system.
That's right, yeah. So we just thought that the position of the farm, we're sat above the Fen Beck, which flows down into Wenning, which then flows into the Lune. And I tried to do as much as I can for conservation, and that's not just conservation in terms of grassland or wetland, but or woodland, but it's also conservation of the watercourses. And and being a farm, there's farm traffic coming and going. You know, there's soil runoff. There's, you know, we're on a slope, so a lot of water runs down into the farmyard and then through the farmyard. And so the idea was to make sure that whatever water passed through the farm made its way into the watercourses as in a good a state as possible, you know, and as clean as possible. So we thought, I'd seen somewhere in West Cumbria a chap had put in a reed bed, and I thought it was a great idea, really. Not only does it clean water, but it also creates a fantastic habitat for birds and invertebrates and all sorts of things. And so, yeah, through Gemma at the Loon Rivers Trust and you know, yourselves with FIPL, it's enabled us to create this reed bed, which hopefully is going to tick all the boxes in terms of clean water, but also create a fantastic habitat.
So after the reed bed, Hilary Maguire from the RSPB has been chatting to you?
That's right, yeah. So I suppose through getting to know about FIPL through the reed bed, and then getting Hilary on farm from the RSPB, it started conversations around the waders and around re-wetting and around creating scrapes and all these sorts of different things that we could do to benefit the bird life on the farm, but as well as the bird life, you know, maybe benefiting the peatland, etc., etc. And so through Hilary's suggestion and some of mine and Rona's ideas, one of them which was to come up with a bird hide, really. Because we love going down with binoculars or, you know, a camera or whatever and taking in the fantastic bird life, and I know other people do, and so I just thought that if we put a bird hide up, it would maybe encourage more people to use it, and you know, it'd mean that we'd be a bit more discreet and might be able to even get to see more of the birds, you know.
Yeah, and just earlier on I was having a look down there at the recent work that Ben's been doing in terms of putting a few extra scrapes in and tackling that rush in the really wet areas where you couldn't safely get your cows into.
That's right. So the wetland area, the moss as we call it, has always been used whenever possible to take a crop of rushes off the wetland. So that means that by tractor cutting the rushes and harvesting them, but because the summers are getting wetter, it's meant that we're not able to do that as frequently. And so Ben Scott, a contractor from the Forest of Bowland, has been there in February. He's been using a flail topper to mulch the rushes because we don't want the rush to be too strong for the wading birds. And so he's mulched them, but as well as that, through some funding that the RSPB have found, he's created some wetland scrapes as well, again to hold and retain more water, which will benefit the young wader chicks essentially once they're out on the ground and they're feeding.
So Peter, it's been a pleasure working with you up to now, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. And thank you for showing us around the farm. And I'll pop by once the vending machines are up and running. Yeah,
absolutely. You're more than welcome whenever you want. Come and get some milkshake or milk. But no, on behalf of myself and Rona, you know, it's been a pleasure to work with you guys, the Forest of Bowland National Landscape FIPL team. It's been such a worthwhile scheme from our point of view that DEFRA have operated, and you know, it means that we can put some of our dreams and aspirations into reality, really, and you know, hopefully we'll deliver some good to not only, you know, diversified business but also conservation on the farm.